We start recording. Welcome, everyone.
Do you have to get the pointer out of the way? I know I can see it.
Are we ready?
There we go.
Hello, Julia. It's Ricky Gonzalez. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
I hear you, Ricky.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. It looks like we're welcoming guests.
Julia, can you move that pointer at all out of the shot?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes. Yes.
It's just a little distracting.
Sure. Are we ready? How our guests are doing? Let's wait a couple more minutes to let people join. Virtual screens are cool.
We got a good number of participants this afternoon.
Yeah, it's pretty good. 19 people so far.
Not good at sitting and being quiet. Just ask Julia or Mike.
Okay.
I'd never read the when speaking, please keep sharing to 1 minute max. Is that the Rob rule, Julia?
Uh-huh.
No, Rob, not for you. Your story is too good.
No, right. I'm expected to speak more today, but when I'm attending that rule,
I think we're good.
yeah.
I suggest we start.
It's just a rule of thumb. Yeah, let's get started.
Ready?
Yeah, please.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pivoteers and Pioneers, technology-enabled recovery in the age of social distancing. Brought to you by OpenHub and Orange County's Office for Economic Development. This series is part of Orange County's Small Business Survival Toolkit. My name is Bill Fioravanti. I'm the Economic Development Director for Orange County. I'm excited about today's interactive discussion. It features a local business sharing stories on how technology helped during the pandemic shutdown. We believe sharing these stories can help make a difference for the reopening of our local economy. But before we get further along, I'd like to share a little bit about why a technology-driven economy is so important to all of our businesses for economic recovery in Orange County and the Hudson Valley region. As we've witnessed during the shutdown, the use of technology has been an integral part of everyone's pivot. And most businesses are realizing that tech-driven solutions will be part of our successful economic recovery and stability. So which tech is right for your business, and which form will it take? Is it software, hardware, retraining, or all of the above that will give your business the edge to thrive over the next 10 years and beyond? That's what Pivoteers is all about. This webisode series is a resource that empowers us to exchange ideas about how technology can improve our existing operations so we're driving our own future. That's what the Office of Economic Development is all about in Orange County, creating momentum for a strong economy in our region now and for decades to come. And now I have the pleasure of introducing one of my partners here. We're the partnership that helped bring the Hudson Valley Tech Fest, OpenHub, and their founder, Yulia Ovchinnikova. Yulia.
Hello, my name is Yulia Ovchinnikova. I am the founder of OpenHub. Every day we work with stakeholders to bring government, businesses, and talent together to build a stronger, tech-driven economy. OpenHub is an open ecosystem resource center committed to building a technology center in the Hudson Valley. Partnering with stakeholders, businesses, and talent, we promote, train, and facilitate towards the growth of the thriving tech-driven economy. This series is our exploration to discover pivoteers for our HVTechFest in October. We are proud to investigate and showcase all these heroic businesses who were able to pivot and adapt to the new abnormal during the shutdown. We are happy to produce Pivoteers and Pioneers as our way of contributing to recovery of Orange County and the entire Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Yulia. I appreciate, and the entire county appreciates everything OpenHub is doing to create a strong tech-driven recovery. Now to introduce our featured pivoteer for today, we're thrilled to have with us a truly local regional financial institution in Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. Before we meet our guests, Michael Matone, VP of Community Impact, and Robert Mills, Chief Information Officer for MHV FCU, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Shelley, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shelley Tween. I'm Communications Coordinator for OpenHub. And Bill, it's a pleasure to team up with you today. Thanks.
Same here, Shelley. Take it away. Let's begin our interview.
All right, Michael and Rob, are you ready?
Yes, we are.
All right. So we're so glad you both can be here today. I know you have many stories about how MHV fared during the shutdown. But before we get to that, Michael, can you please tell us a little bit about MHVFCU?
Sure. And again, thank you on behalf of everyone at MHV. Thank you for having us. We're glad to come today and share our story. So for those who don't know about Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, we opened in 1963 as IBM Kingston Employees Credit Union during a great time of expansion for credit unions around the country. As a credit union, we're different from a bank in the way that we adhere to the principle of people helping people. We have a volunteer board of directors, and we call our customers members because they join the credit union and then they're also owners. So each member has voting rights and enjoys the reinvestment of profits in things like lower fees and competitive interest rates. So we expanded into a community charter in 2002 and became MHV, which, Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, we always abbreviate to MHV, makes it a lot easier for folks. But that also allowed the credit union to serve anyone who lives, works, worships, volunteers, attends school, or does business in Ulster, Dutchess, and Orange County. Last year, we expanded that to 7 counties. So we included Rockland, Putnam, Sullivan, and Westchester. We have over 80,000 members, over $1 billion in assets, and we are the 20th largest credit union in the state of New York. So we offer services similar to a bank, products and services similar to banks. We also have similar technologies. And just like any type of financial institution, we've traditionally always done things in a very personal, face-to-face way. But we had technologies in place, new technologies, that allowed us to continue serving members despite the pandemic. One of those is our personal teller service. It is think of an ATM with a video screen where 7 days a week you're able to log on to the video screen with your member account and you speak to a live representative. This service is available at all of our 13 branch locations. We've always offered extended banking hours on this. And it was the thought process of we wanted to have a combination of that in-person, that personal feel, also with the newest technologies that are out there in the space.
Mike, you have trained me very well. I want to make sure I jump in real quick and emphasize one of the points you always make sure I emphasize, and that is because we are a local credit union and we're owned by our members, your money all stays local, all the decisions are made local. So again, we are all about the Mid-Hudson Valley.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was part of the reason we really wanted to feature you guys. It's a big differentiator and an integral part of the economic stability of the Hudson Valley. So it's great to have you guys here. I was wondering, Rob, if you could talk to us about these personal tellers. What year were they instituted, and why did MHV invest in tech so long ago? Because although MHV adapted and pivoted during the pandemic, during the shutdown, just like everybody has a story, MHV also did something unusual in that they invested in tech ahead of time, and one of those is the personal teller. So
yeah, no, please. So we were very blessed to be. I mean, our industry is very much risk averse, and so to be innovative and adopting technology early is not normal in our industry. I actually would love to take credit for it, but a good friend of mine was the chief technology officer at MHB before I was, and they adopted it before my previous credit union did. Back in, I want to say it was around 2011, MHV was the second credit union in the country to actually adopt that technology. And the focus there is one that we still live today, and the reason that was adopted was not because we had some great foresight and could see a pandemic coming. It was all about servicing our members the best way that we could. We want to make sure that we can take care of your needs anywhere and anytime you want to do it. So if you if you want to drive to a branch, we would love to have you come in and work with us in a branch. But again, we're making heavy investments in online banking so that, again, I don't know about everybody else on the call, but I do not ever want to drive to my credit union ever again to deposit a check when I can do it on the phone. I'd much rather just do it in my living room. Well, again, the ITMs, as they're called in the industry, we love to call them personal tellers because we do believe in that personal touch. But again, the interactive teller machines were something that we adopted because what we were looking to do is how do we make sure that we take care of all of our members, not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. When we first adopted the personal tellers, we actually rolled them out 24/7. And that was a huge challenge because if you think about anybody that's involved in a technology data center, you kind of depend on these off hours to run batch jobs and clean things up. When you start running your business 24/7 and you've been used to Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, it's a very, very large challenge. But we did pull it off. We did service our members 24/7 for quite some time, but then really let the data drive our decisions and realize that our members really weren't using them from somewhere around 11 o'clock at night till about 6, 7 in the morning. And so we backed off to where we are still open 7 days a week on those. And again, the difference between them and an ATM is when you walk up and touch that screen, you can not only do the ATM functions, but if you're really needing help and the branch itself is not open, our staff will be happy to take care of you at that point in time. So that's really the key differentiator, the key reason we believe so much in them. And during the pandemic, we did have to scale back on hours just because we had to reallocate individual team members to so many different things as the different variables came up. But we have consistently stayed open 7 days a week, 8 to 8. And how early are we open right now, Mike? Is it 7 a.m. that we start the personal tellers?
No, it's 8 to 8 right now.
8 to 8, thank you. Yep.
thank you so much, Rob. That is, I mean, it's really interesting, and also to know that you guys were second in the country to offer that innovation. It's pretty cool. And this next question is for Mike. So what was it like in early to mid-March? What was Mid-Hudson Valley doing? How were you guys deciding what changes and pivots needed to be made? And how did you stay ahead of the curve to avoid disruption to member services?
Well, I think everyone knows what it was like in early to mid-March. We were just so overwhelmed with all of the things going on, in regard to the pandemic and the effects that it had on our communities and our business and everything. And, fortunately, the culture of MHV, living with our mission of being there throughout our members' financial journey, In order to do that, you need a culture of, very transparent leadership, high communication, really, synergy across all levels of the business operation. And because of that, we were very quick in realizing that we needed to make actionable changes in order to continue serving members while keeping our employees and our members safe. That was always the goal, and everyone was made aware of that, and that was spread out throughout the organization. So our leadership team started meeting daily and sometimes multiple times a day to talk about all the different things that we can do differently in our organization so that we can achieve that goal of continually serving our members while keeping everyone safe. And it wasn't a top-down edict like you would see in some other businesses. Our CEO, Wayne Winkler, is a fantastic leader in terms of making sure everyone's voice is heard and there's a collaborative effort and a collaborative approach to decision-making. And that allows us to be more creative and to be a little bit faster with the adaptation of things like a personal teller machine. So, again, we had multiple meetings a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. We would get together on Saturdays or Sundays via telephone or video call and really talk about the different things that we can do. We looked at what was going on in the greater landscape. Were there changes in legislation or government, such as the payroll protection program or remote notarization that we were able to start doing that we can utilize to accomplish that goal of serving our members, being with them throughout their financial journey? Because as we all know, the COVID pandemic was a very, very difficult time for a lot of people in terms of their financial journey, not just health-wise and work-wise. And we did that for about a month. And everything from getting all the direct deposits taken care of, from stimulus payments, there was millions of direct deposits coming in for stimulus checks, to like Rob said, redeployment of employees to different positions to serve members at the highest area of need, to educating folks about how to use all these digital channels if they've never used them before. So, it was all about getting together, having, high-level communication, having a lot of thought and process and collaboration going into decisions that we made. And we were able to do a lot of things successfully because of that.
That's great. I heard about one quick pivot, and I was wondering, Rob, if you could tell me the story, or tell all of us the story about David Perry, the VP of branch operations. What was his quick thinking pivot?
Oh boy, yeah, I know I shared one specific one with you, but he had so many as he was working through things with our members. When we first started experiencing the pandemic, we were one of the first folks to actually start calling some of the local health agencies and start trying to ask, okay, hey, we think we've had somebody become positive. What do we need to do? So again, we were having a lot of early conversations, and David did a great job. Him and our Chief Retail Officer, Chris Gomez, they pulled their teams together, and they were meeting nightly to talk about what was going on in the branches and how to best serve our members and keep them safe and keep our staff safe. And one of the things that happened as soon as we started looking at needing to close foot traffic in the branches, which we had that option because with our interactive teller machines or our personal tellers, we were able to let our members know, hey, for your safety and our staff safety, we really can't have you coming in the branch, but we'll work with you, make sure that you're comfortable using our personal tellers. We'll still service you through our drive-ups, as well as do everything we can to take care of your needs through our phone system and our contact center. But David took it one step further. As soon as we were able to, or needed to start closing foot traffic in the branches, he asked if there was a way we could get information out or take requests in from members online to where he might be able to service them in person by appointment. And while there's some great appointment software out there, we didn't have any implemented yet. So we quickly got together with our developers and our marketing team and figured out how just to get a basic web page out on our website so that members could just go ahead and fill out a page there and get a request in to get service in a way that they didn't think they could be serviced. Well, David Perry volunteered, and he worked pretty much from sun up to sundown and sometimes even longer to review every single one of those emails, reach back out to those members and give them options on how we could take care of their needs. A lot of times he was able to just walk them through how to do something that we already knew how to do on online banking. He was able to help them right then and there on the phone, or transfer them to somebody in our contact center to take care of their needs. And again, when they truly did need to come in, or they just weren't comfortable with the other options, he scheduled an scheduled an appointment for them to come in to our branch. So we actually never stopped serving our members in our branches. We just didn't have it as our normal channel that again, most of our members are used to. So we did have on average about 30 in-branch appointments a day across our 13 different branches. But yeah, David was one of our internal heroes on just, I mean, boy, there were times here I think he was putting in anywhere from 14 to 16-hour days taking care of that.
Yeah, and the great part about having David as part of that collaborative leadership process is David would come back to our team and give us the data and give us the analytics on all the different types of appointment requests that we were getting. And then we as a team would be able to sit down with our groups and say, okay, these are the types of things members are asking to do to, come in person to the branch. Is there a way that we can utilize technology to do it differently? I talked about the remote notarization. This is something that credit unions and even banks have been trying to get to be allowed in New York State for a pretty long time. And the governor passed Executive Order 202.07. That part of that was the allowance of remote notaries. So when we saw the amount of notary requests we were getting to come into the branch, David and Chris Gomez and the retail team got together with Rob and his team, and we put together a process so that we can offer remote notary to members. And I believe we've done over 100 of those already.
Yeah, and again, those were one of the ones. Yeah, and those were one of the services that David was having to let folks come in to the branch to physically do, because we didn't have any other way to legally notarize a document until that executive order was signed. So again, when that was signed, we were able to move that to an electronic format quickly and continue to service our members remotely.
Yeah, and really just having the technological tools, like Rob said, we didn't have a specific software for something like that, but we do have the people and the tools. And when you have open communication with all parties that are involved, you're able to make those pivots so quickly as an organization.
This is great.
That's what I was thinking of as I'm listening. Yes, we're featuring you because of tech, but that's not the only aspect to a successful recovery. There is leadership that believes in transparency and communication. There is a good team already built up that listens to each other and thinks up good ideas and then is able to run to someone's office, let's put up a page. So as much as we need tech, we also have to remember about good communication and good interpersonal skills to have healthy teams. So we can work together when we have a crisis like a shutdown to really get through it.
Yeah, Shelley, I mean, you make the number one point. I mean, I can, as a CTO, bring all the technology in the world, but without the dedicated people that we had on this team, we wouldn't have made it through this.
Yeah, and it actually reminds me of another sort of pivot that we made in terms of having people needing to adopt new technologies as part of their day-to-day, was the redeployment of staff, specifically with the SBA's PPP loan program, the Paycheck Protection Program, where we were getting small business funding to businesses in need. We have 2 business development reps. So part of my role is business development capacity. So I work closely with our business development reps, Mike Campbell and Guy Greco, and a lot of our business development function was going out and meeting people in person, and that obviously changes immensely with the times of the COVID pandemic. So when we realized that our business services team needed some help in terms of getting, processing these loan requests and working with our members, Mike and Guy, stepped up to the plate, and Melissa Walsh, the VP of Marketing, everyone working together to get them redeployed to help out with these small business requests with our business services team, and talking to those guys specifically about how it felt early on. And, there was a lot of nervousness, in terms of, wow, this is something so new to me. I want to make sure that I get everything right. I have to learn these new systems. I have to learn this SBA system that everyone is learning, because that system for the PPP program was new entirely.
And
but
how much time did they have to learn it also?
It was a quick turnaround. It was a quick turnaround time. We got them in. We had our trainers there. We had the people from business services, helping them walk them through the process. making sure that they felt comfortable. And I think that what really happened was very early on in their learning process, even within the first 48 hours, they came to realize that they were doing the same thing they do every day, which is helping members, just doing it in a different capacity, utilizing different technologies. So once you kind of get past that, that hurdle of, you're doing the same, you're accomplishing the same goal, you're just using new tools. And just getting them to, learn those tools and quickly onboard them to the programs that we use from the small business services capacity. It was effective for us in making sure that we can get things done in a timely fashion. We processed over 250 PPP loans. So we're very proud of that and proud of the work that our team that we redeployed to help out with those loans was able to do.
And Shelley, just real quick, I even had 2 folks out of the tech department that were originally out of the frontline staff. Before the government started passing the different relief packages, we were stepping up as a credit union and giving our members relief on credit card payments or mortgage payments. And 2 of my staff went down and helped in those different departments because of the fact that we had so many requests so early on as unemployment started to skyrocket. And again, we've got examples of that throughout our credit union where different staff members helped any way they could.
Yeah. Mike, you said before a statistic from the SBA about how many loans happened, how quickly. Do you remember?
Yeah, so nationally, the SBA with lenders like MHV processed approximately 14 years worth of loans in 14 days. So you hear a lot about, if you just turn the news on and listen to some of the stories that you hear about all these different issues that have gone on, know that, despite what you may read, the program and the amount of work that local lenders like MHV and other credit unions were able to do to help small businesses through this program, working with the SBA, was really something that we might never see again. 14 years of loans in 14 days is truly impressive.
Also, wasn't the guidelines not released? When just all of a sudden this huge loan program is offered. Everybody's hungry for it. Everybody's applying at the same time. You got to submit before the deadlines run, not the deadline runs out, the money runs out. But then what was going on with the bank not getting the guidelines in time? Was that, does anyone know about that story?
Well, it was, it was one of those things where, a lot of what needed to be done was in the legislation. So we were able to get really prepared. And then as different tweaks came in, as, this is something that's super brand new. And, you have between the lenders and the agencies trying to make it as perfect as possible in a very, very short period of time. There were some adjustments that needed to be made, but I think once everyone kind of got the hang of the legislation, the guidelines, and the new system, kind of put those things all together, started the process of working with businesses on their applications, it just, really clicked on all cylinders.
Yeah,
it might have not happened right away, but once everyone kind of got over those initial hurdles, and that happens when you're implementing new programs, new technologies, new anything, you have a couple of initial kinks that you just have to really work out before everything starts to flow really naturally. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with this program. But we were really, really happy with the work we were able to get done with SBA.
Yeah, but Shelley, you are remembering that correctly. I mean, we were lucky because we had Mike, and he's spent a lot of time and energy in building relationships to where we got to hear a little bit more about what was going on earlier. But for the folks that have joined us that were frustrated with their local financial institutions, you do have to give them a little bit of grace. I do remember, I think the legislation passed on a Thursday or Friday, and we had to start taking those on Monday morning.
Oh my God.
So again, we had a lot of folks work a lot of hours, even with our early prep. So again, if you didn't have somebody that had those relationships and was getting some of that information early, you had zero time to react to it. So it was definitely very hard, especially for the small financial institutions, to react to that legislation.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind during a crisis that everybody's trying their best, and that's why we worry about the most vulnerable among us. But just going back to the same point, tech is important. We couldn't get through the shutdown without it. And yet having healthy teams, healthy communication, people interested in not being too set in your ways, taking a little chance, doing something new to get through the crisis. It really is a great combination, the tech and the people skills. I want to remind everybody who's attending today that we are taking questions. If there's any small business owners who are participating as attendees, to please use the chat column. Let me know that you're here. Bill Fioravanti is going to tell us about some Orange County resources, but MHV is going to stay here to answer questions and brainstorm if there's any challenges, if you have a short story to share about your own business. We'd love to hear from you. So I want to thank Robert and Mike. Don't go anywhere. But I want to thank you guys for sharing. It's awesome. I know a bank doesn't seem like an exciting story. Everyone's like, but it's, well, a credit union.
I gotta say, a credit union's an exciting story.
Yes, but a credit union.
They deserve their round of applause. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So, all right, Bill.
All right, I'll jump in. Thank you again, Rob and Michael. It was excellent, very informative, really intriguing. And it's not just that businesses out there can take exactly what you did. Obviously, it's specific to your industry, but it's the approach. It's the way you're looking, the attitude, the collaboration, and just the willingness to pivot. So, and the creativity, all that it takes. So really very helpful, very inspirational. We appreciate that. I just want to mention a couple other things as we say goodbye to our audience before we move to Q&A, excuse me. All the talk right now is about reopening businesses. Of course, we're in the middle of phase one. We started that on Tuesday. Phase one is manufacturing, construction, agriculture, a few other sectors. But it was kind of getting those construction projects and manufacturers back open that really was the biggest news. Phase two, we're hoping, begins on June 9th, 2 weeks from this past Tuesday. That's generally the interval we're looking at. Upstate, the counties and the regions that are ahead of us just went into phase two today. There's a lot of information on New York State's New York Forward website, all sorts of specific phase information. You want to know what you're in. The guidance keeps coming out every day. Phase two, we're looking to have open June 9th. That would be offices, administrative functions, all sorts of professionals, and even salons and barbers. So with some certain restrictions. So that's important. I'd like to direct you, what you're seeing on the screen right now, I'd like to direct you to the county's Reopen Orange webpage. Of course, it's very easy to get to. You come to the Orange County page, orangecountygov.com. I can put that in the chat screen as well. You go there, you easily see our COVID banner, tap on there. On our COVID webpage, you're seeing a lot of resources that people need right now, businesses and individuals, about unemployment, about loans, about testing, whatever it might be. And we have a new resource that's on that page now. There's a button for Reopen Orange. You're seeing a screenshot right now of Reopen Orange. You see there is a little graphic here on the faces to give you an idea of that. And there are links directly to resources that are essential for businesses right now. We're going to move to that next slide, and I'll show you one of those resources. The first is a comprehensive guide to reopening your business, no matter what industry sector you're in. We put this together. I'm very proud of this. It's a really nice piece. Again, a very comprehensive guide. It's utilizing resources that come down from the CDC, from New York State, of course, and even guidelines that our Department of Health is contributing. So this is absolutely essential. Please go to our Reopen Orange site, to that page, and download this toolkit. Again, it's the more comprehensive piece. And there's one other resource I'd like to point out that's available on that page. On our next slide here, it's a shorter version. It is basically a one sheet. It's a checklist. You're seeing that now. It's two-sided. This is just one side we're showing. So it's basically kind of a shorter version of the full toolkit that you can use. This is a great thing to post up. Good thing to share with others. Very easy kind of consolidated information about reopening. So the resources are here. It's based on everything we know about reopening that's allowed in our region under New York State guidelines. Unfortunately, that information is coming out kind of, again, in drips and drabs, but as soon as we get it, we're helping to get it out to the public. So this is a very important one I wanted to share as well as a resource. And I think that's pretty much it. I do want people to reach out to our office with any questions. The number is 360-0231. Of course, that's 845-360-0231. We're here. You're not alone in this. So I want to make sure people know that they have connections and they have resources right here through Orange County. So thanks very much. And I'll turn it back to you, Shelley. We get to our Q&A.
Hey, Shelley, if I may, just before you get started Q&A, just one of the things in terms of our story, we were very reliant on local government offices and, throughout our whole process, and looking at all the stuff that Bill and his team have put together, and the Ulster County government, Dutchess County government, and all the communities we serve, being involved, and active with your local government officials and with your local chambers and stuff like that, it definitely helped us in our pivots and the way that we, in the way we serve their members. So I just can't stress enough the importance of being involved locally and with these community organizations, with these government organizations, because it can really help you grow your business and do great things with your business. So thank you, Bill, for sharing all these wonderful resources with everyone who's on and all of the businesses in Orange County.
Mike, I appreciate that, Michael. Really, it made me think of two things. First of all, this is a regional partnership. Obviously, we're in the Mid-Hudson. There's 6 other counties that are included in that. So especially our neighbors in Dutchess and Ulster and Sullivan, we've worked very closely with them on a regional approach. So I want to mention that as well. You also mentioned the chambers, economic development offices, all part of this essential network, really, basically, to support businesses. So I want to underscore that you're right, get involved with those. And I have one other specific thing for Orange County businesses that you triggered for me. We're partnering with the Orange County Chamber of Commerce to connect with Orange County businesses to help them be involved in a program where Orange County will purchase PPE, make bulk purchases of PPE. We just did our first order with the county to make it more accessible for businesses. Obviously, that's an essential piece of it. So contact your local chamber, who will then work with the Orange County Chamber, or call Lynn Sion and her team at the Orange County Chamber if you're interested in PPE. So Michael, thanks for that. You triggered that as well. All right, Shelley.
No, it's awesome.
That's really really important. What if you're a small business owner and you're not part of you're in Orange County and you're not part of the chamber? Would someone get in touch with your office?
That's a great question. First of all, when it comes to the PPE issue, you still can call the Orange County Chamber. It's not just about their members. And really, generally, what the Orange County Chamber is doing now, they haven't restricted anything. They're sharing information with everyone. They're answering questions, taking calls from all sorts of businesses. But they can always call my office as well. So we're both the resource and any other agency. Again, as I mentioned, we're kind of all working together to provide a safety net here for businesses. So if they get to one agency over another, we're all going to bounce it to each other so we can help in the areas that we provide the most expertise.
I think it's so important what both of you just shared. I think that's really great. Thank you so much. We do have one question that was posted in the chat from Dave Curley. What are some of the changes, this is for MHV, what are some of the changes that you put into place to deal with COVID that do you see as permanent?
So I can start with this one, Rob. Thank you for that question, Dave, and really appreciate it and appreciate you being on. You'll be really surprised to hear this, but we have a committee that's been put together to talk about that stuff in terms of getting back to, what we would call more standard business operations, and then looking at all the different things that we've implemented, particularly from a technology side, that we would continue to do permanently. Rob, I don't know if you have any specifics on the tech side that, we've seen is very successful that you want to share.
Oh, definitely. A couple of key points I'll try and get through pretty quick. On the tech side, we went from me being the one remote employee as I transitioned my family originally from Oregon to New York. And so we had put some of the pieces in place for me to be able to work with our executive team and technology teams as we went into it. But as the pandemic rolled out, within 3 weeks, we went from one remote employee to almost everybody as a remote employee. Again, big kudos to the staff that pulled that off. And so that gives us, again, remote employee options that our credit union never had in the past. And there's definitely a lot of conversation around that, as Mike mentioned, because that's not just a technology change, it's a culture change. And so a lot more to account for there. Welcome to the new abnormal, right? And then on a personnel side, we so impressed with our teams. We had branch staff that would have normally helped you when you first came into the branch. Well, with our contact center and personal tellers getting overwhelmed, they volunteered and stepped up to become backups on both of those platforms. And so now we have an enormous amount of capacity and flexibility that we didn't have before, because when our contact center got overwhelmed, it was only for one day. We were able to sustain our normal, if not above normal service levels, because that staff stepped up and took that on. So again, that flexibility and that type of cross training is something we want to see if we can sustain going forward as well.
Yep.
Oh.
I think that brings up a really interesting change that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, which is working remotely. And there's always been the question of employee accountability. How will we keep cohesion with how will we have meetings? All those kinds of questions. And perhaps that is, you know, this shutdown, which has been catastrophic, but perhaps it's an opportunity to envision for lots of businesses and lots of organizations to allow for different quality of life situations where you might want to work remotely, or because of long commutes. Also, it'd be nice to work at an office 3 days a week and then have a couple of days at home.
Well, and yeah, and so with that one, the biggest challenge there is, again, for all of you that are disappointed in your management teams not letting you do that, having worked for both small and large credit unions as well as some global software companies throughout my career, a lot of folks don't really understand the challenges of a small management team that's never had a remote workforce before. How do you manage that culturally when you're already unsure, because you're a small organization, if you're managing well with them on premise? And the big thing there culturally is those managers letting go of the false sense of security that you're managing well because they're on premise. You're managing well, either you are or you aren't. But again, as folks have gotten through this, a lot of companies have had to do what we're going through. And so that is the blessing from this very not good thing. And that is that those types of lessons can be learned just out of necessity. And so again, hopefully it does help us all out.
Yeah, thank you. Can we unmic Dave Curley? Let him ask. He has another really great question. And Dave, would you also introduce yourself? Like, where do you work, and ask this question that you have listed?
Looks like he says he's having audio.
Audio. Okay, so I'll do it. So Dave is asking, can MHV, can you touch on any of the security challenges you've faced? What new risks are banks facing in the new, I'm going to say the new abnormal?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, a lot of those security risks were already there. It was just when you have a very low surface area for somebody to attack, obviously it's a little easier to protect than a very large surface area to attack. And so as we went from having very, very few folks working remotely to almost everybody working remotely, obviously the surface area had to change. We had to have all these devices outside of the, if you will, the perimeter defenses, right? All of a sudden you're putting those devices on the outside of those defenses. So how do you take care of that? Luckily, it's not brand new technology. Firewalls and VPNs have existed for quite some time. But again, you still have to up your game. How do you make sure that when that laptop leaves your premise and it's going to somebody's home before it connects to your network, how does that all look, and how does that all work? And so yeah, our security architect definitely had to up his game and make sure that those devices would get interrogated in different ways before they were ever allowed to join our network, and make sure that there was no chance that they had been compromised at some point of just connecting to somebody's home network. So again, I have to be careful because my security architect makes sure that I don't divulge anything important as far as details. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of security pieces there, and small businesses that are doing the same. Again, there is help out there to be had. If you don't have any resources, you've got some here on the call. I know that Yulia loves connecting people, and probably, again, I hope she's okay with me saying this, but you can always reach out to any of our local government agencies or Yulia and her teams. And if she can't find somebody, she's got a broad network of folks that she reaches out to and finds answers for folks. So some of the small businesses that had to go from doing only in their restaurant service and went to curbside and had to go quickly find a way to do an online order and do that well and do that securely. There are resources out there to help you, and if you don't know where they are, again, please reach out to this group, and we'll make sure you get aimed at the right people.
It's because of the dog.
Yep.
For people who are looking for work, that's another field that is really hot right now and will be for a long time, which is just focusing on security as a career. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Yulia or Rob, but security and data, those two careers are really taking off, and OpenHub does have a lot of training, and in a couple of years of training, you could really be up and running. Yulia or Rob, do you either want to speak to that?
I just believe it's coming, and there is a huge interest toward being data-driven, because we have to know what's going on. We have to measure.
Yeah, Shelley, oh, please, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yep. So Shelley, this one's luckily a personal one near and dear to my heart. My middle child is actually studying cybersecurity at a local university.
Yes.
But the reason that I can actually speak to this a little bit is the need has been recognized. There are all of your local learning institutions, higher learning institutions are focused on it in one shape or form. Some of them have taken it as far as the one that my child is attending, and they actually have created a bachelor's of science in cybersecurity. But again, a lot of your local community colleges, the SUNY network, they have classes focused in this as well. So again, if you're interested in the area, all you have to do is start asking questions or Googling it, and you'll quickly run across resources to help you get started there.
Yeah, well, OpenHub also, just for anyone who wants to know, is a great resource center. That is actually what we are. So,
and we are happy to teach in SUNY Ulster,
yeah,
for example, but we are part of it. Of
Yeah.
course, we are not the only one. And cybersecurity is growing, and data interest is growing for sure. We're glad to see it. Remote driven, technology driven.
Yeah.
How's the job search is going for those who lost jobs? Do we have anyone who lost job or who is interested in career change, pivoting your career out here?
Ooh. Actually, I just saw a nice question come up. I don't know if
Yes, good.
from Diane.
Can we unmute Diane so she can speak it in her own words? We can see her face if it pleases her.
Diane, go ahead. Do you have a mic?
It's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen.
No, I unmuted her.
Yeah.
Well, and again, if Diane's not able to start speaking, Diane, feel free to jump in at any point that you do find that your microphone works, but I'll make an attempt here because we had to move to that as well. We do have, we're an essential business. We didn't have a choice. We had to stay open regardless. And we didn't have an opportunity to say, oh, that's okay. We've got openings. We don't need to fill them. No, again, a lot of the needs for MHV went up during the pandemic, not down. So we've definitely continued to hire. But things like what we're on right here, Zoom, there are any number of services out there that are offered for free during the pandemic. And really, it's just a matter of trying to think through and test driving it. So of doing interviews through a video system like this. You can go get a web camera either through Amazon or Best Buy or any of the local shops. I've heard somewhere as cheap as $30, and it has a microphone built into it. And if you want to interview folks online, it's just a matter of scheduling it just like an in-person interview. But if you're going to do an online interview for the first time, don't wait till you're in front of a candidate. Practice with a friend, a family member, another colleague that's going through the same thing. Get the kinks worked out, and then do that interview, and you should be fine, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that, and for someone like myself, who a lot of my business is person-to-person business with, community impact and business development and things of that nature. just have open dialogue. If you're interviewing someone on a telephone or via video call because you can't do it in person, I think just having a more relaxed, open dialogue and say, hey, maybe we can have I just want to have a conversation with you, 15 minutes, just to get to know about you, learn more about, who you are and how you're doing. Before you talk about the job and the interview process, and really just open it up for that person to connect with you on that emotional level, because, we don't have that physical interaction right now, and that's where you can feel a lot of connectivity is when you meet that person and you get to, that whole first impression, looking into their eyes and getting a feel for who they are, just having a conversation, human to human. It's always a great way to kind of break the ice. Regardless if it's an interview or if you're just having a conversation with someone, but just have that human to human conversation just about life in general. And really have that person open up to you a little bit, get a little bit of feel about them. Make sure from an HR perspective, you don't ask any questions that can come back to, haunt you in terms of, unfair hiring practice, because, we don't want to be there. But I think, just create the connectivity, through these technological systems. And I think that not just go for interviewing, I think it goes for everything. It goes for keeping in touch with friends and family and things of that nature, and also business to business connection. It's a great way to stay connected.
BNI,
Yeah.
BNI, Chamber of Commerce, any networking events. I know there are not so many in person nowadays, but there are so many remote nowadays. So just
I found that the breakfasts that we have now at these digital meetings is better than the breakfasts that we had when we were going to to in-person events.
Michael, I think it's worth to share some digital breakfast resources here, and maybe Diana is looking for those as well. So we can split about outreach, we can split about the platform, and we can split this conversation about technology and connectivity.
Mike, Mike, I was wondering if you would share why you're enjoying the remote meetings for breakfast as opposed to in person. What's the advantage?
Well, one, I get unlimited portions because I'll just cook my own breakfast and go at it. But most importantly, I think it's everyone, because they're on the platform, they seem to be more involved. Sometimes you'll go to an event and you feel like there's a group of people that are there to just be seen and get out the door. And they really don't want to have the conversations. They don't want to collaborate. They're there because they, quote unquote, have to be there. These digital networking sessions are, there's a lot of things that you can do, and everyone has a lot of work that they need to get done. But to take the time to get on one of these conferences or one of these calls, it shows that you really are interested and you really want to be involved. So the interactivity has been fantastic. And I think it also helps everyone kind of learn better techniques for communicating when you're not face-to-face. Yeah. And those techniques are always important for us throughout our careers and throughout life. So it's been a great learning experience to do things a little bit differently.
And I believe if you need this connectivity to solve connectivity challenges, or if you want just to integrate all your communication channels into one, maybe we do have some technology experts here. I believe Doug Maziera is specializing on this, actually simplifying your communication ways in technology specifically. And I know there are quite a lot of technology experts out there. And if you have any questions on that, please ask in the chat. Okay? And connect here in this chat.
Yeah. I did want to read that David Chachowski said that there are K through 12 schools here in the Hudson Valley that are introducing students to cybersecurity and data science. And I was wondering, David, do you know which school districts are doing that? I think that's amazing. That's awesome.
Maybe it's Newburgh.
Is it?
Free Academy? Was that what it is?
David didn't say which one, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Newburgh Free Academy. That there is some great technology going on sharing in that community.
Shelley, if I could jump on, I think most people know about the P-Tech programs across New York State, but NFA, the Newburgh Free Academy, has a P-Tech program that it's all based, all these programs have a theme around which the learning is centered. In this case, it's cybersecurity. So they're graduating some of their first students who are graduating with associate's degrees when they finish NFA or just afterward. So it's pretty fantastic, very impactful program.
That is great. And that is the talent that will attract tech businesses to the Hudson Valley as well. And if people are trained for these careers, they might not have to leave the Hudson Valley in order to have a great career, which a lot of people don't want to leave. I mean, Hudson Valley is great. It's beautiful. Your friends, your family is here. And having these skills hopefully will attract a lot of bigger tech business here as well.
We have more happening in the chat. Go ahead.
Sorry, Newburgh is a great example of their P-Tech program, but there are a number of growing computer science programs that are exposing broader groups of students to computer science. And one of the big topics that's getting a lot of attention, and will especially come this fall, is cybersecurity. I'm a high school teacher myself, and I teach computer science all day long to students. And
where?
In Hyde Park.
Hyde Park.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Well, thank you all, because it's great to meet you all and hear that what I'm trying to expose and recruit and encourage students to get involved in is active and happening right here.
Robert was struggling to find cybersecurity professionals in the Hudson Valley, and I bet there are more banks now hiring. Cybersecurity is getting to be hot since we are all moving remote and doing digital
and computer science education at the K-12 level. New York State just defined what that should look like. They just in January approved the learning objectives for what is computer science at the K-12 level. So there's a lot of neat opportunities. A lot of school districts are going to be looking at this in two different directions. Obviously, with all this remote learning, they're going to be pivoting significantly. But there's also this growing idea of what does it mean for students to know what computer science and cybersecurity is. So I think you're going to see school districts reaching out to you folks on both of those levels.
Absolutely.
Sure. I agree wholeheartedly. Some of them already have. I actually spent a little time there in Newburgh. Definitely have been reached out and heard from and seen a lot of, again, the different institutions in the area really focusing on these kinds of things. And if I were to recommend somebody that was just getting into it, that was trying to see if they were going to focus on the right area, highly recommend on just, again, looking at environments out in your Amazon Web Services cloud or your Azure cloud. Those are going to be hot areas that aren't any harder to learn than setting up security for a data center, but it is new and it is different. And so if, again, young students are trying to get in there, and I would highly recommend they go that route. And there's a number of free or relatively inexpensive online ways to learn that on their own if they just want to test drive it.
I think we have a good connection between David and Robert, and that's really what OpenHub is all about, having all kinds of different stakeholders in our community get together, exchange ideas, cross-pollinate, build energy together. Yay!
Oh yeah, well, and I'm a prime example of that. When Yulia found me, because I think I hit her third meetup group in a week, I know, because I was struggling to find the technology resources in the Hudson Valley. Again, she connected me with so many folks. By the time she got around to asking me if I was interested in helping with the Hudson Valley Tech Festival, it was, of course, these are my people.
That's great.
These are our people.
Shelley, it's time. We did it.
One more question. We have interesting question to address, and after this we will wrap it up.
Time for last question, then we'll wrap up.
What's the question?
Will asked about what's the next hero. What are we cooking? We have so much.
What's next?
Name it you. It's not necessarily the next one, but we have to pick from the talent pool, amazing pool of Pivoteers and Pioneers doing amazing projects in the Hudson Valley here right now. They are startup-minded.
Telehealth providers that have fascinating stories, and they're
telemedicine,
centered in the Hudson Valley. We have a couple great nonprofits that are also doing education and community outreach, and we're going to talk about them. We're also going to have an episode, I believe, on loans also. That's coming up. So,
and digital divide. Digital divide is huge. Despite the fact we are all talking about computer science, we're not there yet.
No, we're all learning. We're all part of the digital divide now. But some people have more challenges than others. I think we can do a whole series on the digital divide. But accessibility, the information, knowing how to do things, there's so many aspects to it.
I'd like to just jump in and ask David Chakowski. I posted my contact information. I'd love you to reach out, and maybe Julianne Ross-Kleinman, I see she commented a little bit. We want to make those connections. My office last year put out a white paper, basically a strategy for growing the tech sector in this region, largely informed by the work that we've done with OpenHub for sure. And one of the main facets of the strategy is growing tech education here, because we want to develop that talent pool. And I think right now, with almost being able to look down the Hudson River at New York City and the exodus that we expect to come out of that, we want to capture some of those businesses now. If we're able to say that we have a pool of talent here, coders and beyond, that's going to make it even easier for businesses to come here. In worst case scenario, we train our kids with these future ready skills, ready for sustainable careers. If people like me fail and don't bring those companies here, they'll be able to go all over the world and secure high paying careers. So that's worst case scenario. Best case, we keep that talent right here and we help bring the businesses here, or help that talent actually develop and launch those businesses. So David, the education piece is critical. I definitely want to connect. I want to make sure that we're all working together across the Mid-Hudson on that effort.
And it's not just kids that we need to retrain. We have record level unemployment. We can also train adults too.
Absolutely. No question about it. Thank you.
It's very exciting.
Very
Thank
important.
you, everyone. This was fantastic collaboration effort, and I really appreciate everyone who participated and contributed to that.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Mid-Hudson Valley, MHV, Federal Credit Union. Thank you to Shelley and to Yulia, to OpenHub, everyone